Perspective is one of those art fundamentals that people talk about, but they have a hard time putting their finger on. It's the artist's ability to rotate and distort forms on a 2D surface that make it look like it's rotated in a 3D space. When you draw, you take a lot of 3D shapes and you mash them together to create something more complicated. Perspective helps you in the ability to draw these shapes at many different angles. In this exercise, I'm doing figure drawing, but I'm representing the head, torso, and pelvis all as boxes rotated around in space. I find it easier to draw the figure at such angles when I use boxes like this. Moving over to digital now, I started playing around with the perspective tool in Clip Studio Paint. This tool will create a vanishing point, and it'll automatically angle your lines back to that vanishing point. After drawing some boxes in perspective, I tried placing figures inside the boxes that were supposed to be following that same perspective. I did make a mistake here, however, in not drawing the head, ribcage, and pelvis slightly tilted in a way that a person would naturally stand because, of course, we do not typically stand with our head, ribcage, and pelvis all pointing in the same way. It's actually quite unnatural, and this is why the figures are looking so stiff. Nevertheless, I kept on drawing figures, and the more I went on, the more I got a sense of three-dimensionality from this crowd. Although there is no background, it does look like these figures are standing on a 3D space of somehow. And this is what I was going for. Now that I felt more confident that I could represent figures in a 3D space, I pulled in an image and I tried to draw people inside the image as if they were actually inside of that 3D space. I spent a lot of time trying to nail down the vanishing points of this picture right here. I didn't realize it at the time, but this is 3-point perspective. After receiving some feedback on the sketch, I was able to fix some errors that I had. Since this background is a library, I could think of no character more fitting for this setting than my OC, Maverick. Having been born a half-Finn into an upper-class lifestyle, she found herself caught between having to keep her reputation and respect, and yet feeling terrified that if she got too close to people, that they would find out about her true form and become disgusted with her. So she finds comfort in her books, in her solitude, since they don't seem to judge. Later in life, she becomes engrossed in a mystery surrounding an island called the Commonwealth, where people seem to disappear without a trace. In my last comic, she appeared as a secret agent. She set the whole events of the story in motion. If you're interested in learning more, you can click on the link in the video description. Anyway, back to the topic of perspective. For a final challenge, I attempted to draw an environment from imagination. Although I am still using reference, instead of copying the vanishing points from the reference or drawing over the reference, I am trying to create my own composition here. This time it wasn't as difficult for me to place the vanishing points down, but I was having a hard time making these blocky shapes actually look like a building. So eventually I did just decide to throw some values in and move on with my day. Another perspective challenge you can do at home is drawing a rotating sphere made of cubes. This is a good exercise to gain a foundational understanding of rotating forms in perspective. It's also harder than it looks. I'm running out of footage now, so I'll be ending the video. If you're interested in learning more about my characters, check out the comic in the description. And say hi in the comments. Later.